Hey, Richard Miller here again, Facts for Working People. And I just wanted to follow up a little bit on that. Those comments I made with that little video there, the road not taken, with regards to the trade union leadership and their role in the defeats over the last 25 or so years, and how that role has led to the rise of Trump and the crisis that we're in politically at the moment with these two characters. And I thought I want to raise firstly just one other strike that we've had here, and we had one recently. It was a couple of years ago, and it's regular. It goes on. It happens regular, and that's the transit system of the Bay Area. The workers had we had a long hot summer a couple of years ago, and it's the same situation. The union officials are so deathly afraid of a victory because they don't see anything beyond that victory except for chaos. And because it will inspire people, it will inspire millions of workers inside and outside organised labour. ATU and the SERU were predominant in it. AFSCME had a small supervised local in it, but the transit workers that can shut down the economy of the Bay Area, it's an immense potential power. And you have the same situation with the ILWU and the docks. But the question is that they never really appeal to the widen and broaden that struggle, link with the communities, fight for jobs, place demands on the table that appeal to, that are necessary to draw the rest of the working class into our struggle, into their struggle. It's not very. You can understand why a person that can't get to work, they are disruptive, but that's the history of change. But it's a little less obnoxious when you see that the people that are shutting down the trains, that are preventing you from getting to work through withdrawing their labour, that they want to draw you in. They're fighting for more jobs. They're fighting for free transportation for seniors. They're fighting for cheaper transportation for the unemployed. All sorts of demands that affect the rest of working people in general. Then you see a reason for joining in that struggle, and of course they never do, and there's somebody who can't get to work for their $12 an hour job in order to support somebody earning 35 and going on strike for more. It was the same in the grocery strike in 2003, where they'd be saying, they were up here, it was informational picket, they'd be saying, oh, don't cross the picket line, don't go in, we're going to lose our benefits, they're taking our benefits. I don't know how many times I heard people say, benefits? What are benefits? But there's no attempt by the UFCW to link up, because they were already they start from a position of concessions. I remember in that strike, one of the negotiators for the UFCW said in the press, and that was for the ears of the employer, to assure them that they were open to concessions and that they were not going to push too hard. He said that the problem with the employers was that they wanted to make the cuts with a chainsaw, and the union was willing to do it with a scalpel. So we just reassure them that it's okay. We're not going to hurt your profits. Just be a little less aggressive. So those were another couple of examples I wanted to give. I mean, the transit workers could definitely, and the dock workers, if they had a vision of broadening the struggle, making the struggle a struggle politically, a class struggle against capitalism in general, because that's what we're fighting. They have the courts, they have the police, they have the law, they have the Congress, they have the political parties. That's who we're up against. But the other thing I was going to say, it's not just them it's not just the organised labour, the members in organised labour that they betrayed, and that they betrayed, but also the youth. When I think about it, and I think about the time here, this was 1999, a lot of young people today, in 18, 19, 20 years of age, they were 4, 5 or 6 then. But they shut down the World Trade meeting in Seattle. There's a movie, I've not seen it, The Battle of Seattle, and it was a total shock to the US bourgeois, to the US ruling class, that here in the most advanced industrial economy in the world, the World Trade Organization meeting was shut down. It was an interesting mix of things, in anti-environmentalism and world trade. There's no such thing as free trade or fair trade. The big economies will always dominate the little economies, and the guys with a big stick will always smack the little guys. So there was all this conflict between the underdeveloped world that are basically held held prisoner through debt and the lack of capital and the resources that there's taken out of those countries by the industrial countries. There were all of those conflicts. It was a very secretive meeting. The WTO came after the General Agreement on Tariff and Trade, those sort of talks. That was introduced during the Bretton Woods meetings immediately after the war of 44, when American imperialism was completely alone, was dominant, and it could impose its military and economic, through its powerful military and economy, and its productive forces weren't destroyed. It imposed its will on the rest of the world. And so you had this huge meeting. There were massive battles. There were about, I recall, I think about 40,000 workers. They were organized workers. You had Sweeney, the head of the AFL-CIO there. And there was one march with like about, I remember, 5,000 or 6,000 workers and students and workers environmentalists, because there were a lot of environmentalists that were involved in that. And so that shut down that meeting. It was complete chaos. There was massive police abuse. The police chief resigned, if I recall. But I was looking at it just now. I just had a quick look at some of the stuff we wrote, and I remember there was a quote here. It was a steel worker. He was with there were about 5,000 of them marching, U.S. steel workers and students. And this guy says, "I never got on with environmentalists until I realized we were fighting for the same thing." And this development, this linking, this tendency for a section of the unions to move closer to the students bothered the union bureaucracy. Sweeney, the head of the AFL-CIO, was off there prayer vigils and candlelight vigils and all. These things worked. We'd all be doing it. They don't work. That's why we're where we're at. But he was out there doing that, praying and candlelight vigils. And meanwhile, the militant section of the organised labour and the youth were beginning to build bonds together. Environmentalists and workers, blue-collar workers. This was a new phase. And it was against global capitalism, basically, is what it was. And after that WTO meeting in Seattle, what they did here, the union bureaucracy did here, is that there was continued meetings after that. There was Montreal, there was Washington D.C. against the IMF and the World Bank. There was LA, I think there was one, and there was one in Genoa, Italy, where that young kid Giuliani was killed, where the fascist police. It was found that the police were fascist. They were singing fascist songs. But the thing is that what happened that after Seattle in 1999, there was a movement against global capitalism, globalization, capitalist globalization, and they came down on them very, very hard. They came down on the youth very, very hard. And of course it's a precursor to what we see now with the protests against police abuse, the beefing up of the cops and everything else. That all really began to start back there, because there was an opposition developing to neoliberalism against global capitalism, and so you had that there. You had literally, if you go and Google it, you had thousands of demonstrations against globalization. It became more globalization so as not to be seen as against global capitalism. Fair trade was the name of the day. And I know they have that World Social Forum, which is like a counter to the industrialized imperialist nations, the advanced capitalist nations, among the third world nations, underdeveloped nations, whatever you want to call them, bunches of civil societies and NGOs, but that's a non-partisan thing. It talks about democracy and fairness and everything else. It's not a movement against openly or even, I don't know enough about it, but from what I can understand, against global capitalism. So why I raised this is, in the previous video I talked a little bit about us recognizing clearly the role of what we've called on our blog, Sean used the term, the dog that doesn't bark, the trade union leadership. And as I've said before, the left avoid they'll say often, well, they won't do this, they won't do that. I understand that, and they'll never do anything without being forced to do it. And but they very often just ignore them, and we can't ignore them. It's a mistake to ignore them. It's like, imagine being in the desert and there's a guy with a barrel of water or a sack of water, and you say, well, he's not going to give it to us. He's just not going to do that, and we wouldn't ignore them. We'd take it, we'd mobilise, we'd organise, and we'd take it. And so the thing is I wanted to just point out that it's not just the organised labour, the organised workers that have been betrayed by them, but it's also movements of the youth. The movements took place against global capitalism in the early part of the 21st century, right after, in the early part of this decade here. And so I wanted to talk about that a little bit. And also, just lastly, well, two things. One of them, what's important about this is, like, I'm in the Green Party. I've joined the Green Party. I'm going to vote for Jill Stein. I don't know where the Green Party is going to end up. It's got a lot of faults. There's some decent people in it. I've met them. There's more people that have come in it through the Sanders thing. To be honest with you, it's more open than many of the left groups who have this. And we were one of them. This idea that you can't debate and discuss openly, it's ridiculous. The big capitalists, the bourgeois, can listen to what you're talking about, but the working class can't. So I don't know where it's going to end up. But the thing is, I was reading today something about Trump being ahead of Hillary Clinton at the moment, and also on Facebook there was a bit of a debate between two people that I'm friends with on Facebook, and they're both Democrats. One of them is a former union guy of mine. He went into management, and he will go wherever, in my opinion, is advantageous to him. But he's a very talented guy, and they got into a bit of a battle because he was saying about how she's considering voting, doing a write-in for Bernie Sanders. I don't agree with that, but she's considering that. And in California, you can do that. He jumped all over her immediately because it's a vote for Trump. And this is the same old argument. They blamed Nader. They're going to blame the Green Party. What we have to do is, and anybody has to do, not simply as a counter to defend the Greens or anything like that, but the question is, it's not the Green Party that's going to be responsible for Trump getting elected. The reason we're in this situation is the role of the trade union leaders. They have had the money, the power, they control the structure. As I think I've said before, there's 14 million workers in the trade union movement. There's a mood for change in the trade union movement as well that's suppressed. Any movement from below, they suppress it. They have an army of staffers. That's what they're for. You've got this in California, where I am. There's 2 million workers affiliated to the State Labor Federation. LA, there's 800,000 workers affiliated to that Central Labor Council. There's 1,000 of those councils in the country. My union, AFSCME, has 4,000 locals. There is a structure there, and nobody would know who they are. They sit back there. It's the dog that doesn't bark. Don't blame us. I got my AFSCME magazine, and you've got the head of AFSCME again. He's saying that Lee Sanders is his name. Hillary Clinton is for us. Hillary Clinton will take care of working people. Working people know that's false. He talked about not attacking people of color. That's to counterpose her to the racist Trump. But what was a super predator? What's that all about? That's supporting people of color. She said that, and she meant it. Anybody that lives in the working class, anybody that lives and has worked with people, anybody that's got their eyes open knows that the crisis in the black community is a social crisis, and there's the real predators are in Washington, D.C., in the Pentagon, and what have you. So there they are, supporting the same situation. We're in a crisis situation. They're responsible for it. I don't want to hear from any union guy. If you're in a union and you're going to attack the Green Party if Trump gets in, or because Hillary didn't win by a sufficient margin, or what have you, then I don't want to hear it, because you should be fighting within the organized labor, within our movement, to build oppositions within the unions, on the workplaces, to transform our organization organizations to get rid of the leadership we have now and to fight, to struggle against them for the consciousness of the working class. So that's what, I wanted to bring in that question of the youth. All of society has suffered because the trade union leadership do nothing. And, well, actually, they don't do nothing. They undermine the 14 million members in their movement, in their organisation, that has the potential to open up the floodgates of discontent that's in this country. Sanders shows that, and so does the Trump thing. The last thing I'd like to say is this. You know, a lot of people have said they support our blog. We've got over 1 million. We've got 1,050,000 views. We have our weekly conferences, phone conferences. We plan on hopefully having a meeting after the elections. We're getting a couple more people to write for it. We're very conscious about who writes for it. It's got a good working class readership. We welcome anybody that has the perspective that the working class can change society. We're socialists, that only the working class can. We welcome middle class people. We welcome academics if they have the view that what they've learned through academia they place in the interest of the working class. We need equipment. We will anticipate more traveling. If we do have a meeting and if people want to come, we want to help them. Those that are not in the area where the meeting would take place, if they come from somewhere else, we'd want to help them. We have, for example, I've got to subscribe to the Financial Times. I can't do without that paper anymore. I can't buy it anymore at the price it is. That's $300 a year. So we want some financial help. You know, we got a button there to the right on the blog. You can hit that, $5 a month. Can you give us $5 a month? For those people that know me, I think, and know the people around the blog, I think you know we're not going to go on holiday with it. I've spent a lot of money on this blog, but it's worth it for me. I'm a political character. It's an outlet. And it's growing, and its influence is growing. And so, if you can help us out, we need help that with this blog. And of course, if you can write for it, you can send us information that's useful for it that we can put up there. That would be good. So anyway, this is just a follow up on the other little commentary I had. We'd like to do more of these, and we probably will. So I'll see you next time. This is Richard Miller with Facts for Working People.